Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayed Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna. So this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 3, entitled Liberation from the Illusory Energy, Text 32. Kvachit rudantya achyuta chintaya kvachit dhasanti nandanti vadantya laukikaha nrityanti gayanti anushilayanti ajam bhavanti tushnim parametya nirvritaha kvachid rudantya achyuta chintaya kvachid dhasanti nandanti vadanti alaukikaha nrityanti gayanti anushilayanti ajam bhavanti tushnim parametya nirvritaha kvachit rudantya achyuta chintaya kvachit dhasanti nandanti vadanti alaukikaha nrityanti gayanti anushilyanti ajam bhavanti tushnim parametya nirvritaha. Mataji. Word meaning? Kvachit, sometimes. Rudanti, they cry. Achyuta, of the infallible Supreme Lord. Chintaya, by the thought. Kvachit, sometimes. Hasanti, they laugh. Nandanti, take great pleasure. Vadanti, speak. Alaukikaha, acting amazingly. Nrityanti, they dance. Gayanti, sing. Anushilayanti, and imitate. Ajam, the unborn. Bhavanti, they become. Tushnim, silent. Param, the supreme. Etya, obtaining. Nirvritaha, freed from distress. Translation. Having achieved love of Godhead, the devotees sometimes cry out loud, absorbed in thought of the infallible Lord. Sometimes they laugh, feel great pleasure, speak out loud to the Lord, dance or sing. Such devotees, having transcended material conditioned life, sometimes imitate the unborn Supreme by acting out his pastimes. And sometimes, achieving his personal audience, they remain peaceful and silent. Purport. Srila Vishwacharya Thakur has explained the symptoms of love of Godhead. Rudanti. The devotees cry, thinking, another day has passed and still I could not obtain Krishna. Then what will I do? Where will I go? From whom shall I inquire? And who can possibly help me reach Krishna? Hasanti. It is late at night, the sky is dark, and Krishna is determined to steal from the house of one of the elderly gopis. He is hiding underneath a tree in the corner of the courtyard belonging to one of the cowherd men. Although Krishna thinks that he is completely concealed, he suddenly hears a voice from one of the elderly members of the family. Who are you there? Who are you? I say. Thus Krishna has been caught, and he begins to flee the courtyard. When this humorous scene is revealed to the devotee begins to laugh heartily. Nandanti. When Krishna actually reveals his transcendental form to the devotee experiences the highest transcendental bliss. Vadanti. The devotee says to the Lord, O Krishna, after so many days, I finally achieved you. When all of the devotee's senses are absorbed in Sri Krishna, the devotee has successfully transcended the material condition of life. This is indicated by the word alaukikaha. Alaukika, or the transcendental platform, is explained by the Lord in Bhagavad-gita, 14th chapter, 26th verse. Mam chayo bicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, Ajam Harim Anushilayanti Tat Leelam Abhinayanti. Anushilayanti indicates that out of extreme ecstasy, the devotees sometimes imitate or act out the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. This ecstatic symptom was manifested by the gopis in Vrindavan during Krishna's absence. In the 21st verse of this chapter, it was stated that one who has understood that there is no happiness either on earth or in material heaven must surrender at the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. The following verses gave many detailed instructions regarding the activities of a bona fide disciple. Now this verse is describing the mature fruit of devotional service, namely pure love of Godhead. Everyone has the opportunity to come to this platform of transcendental bliss by taking the dust of the lotus feet of Krishna's representative on his head. One should give up the mentality of envy and false prestige and humbly take shelter of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual master is to be considered the incarnation of the Lord's mercy. There is absolutely no doubt that a sincere soul who serves a bona fide spiritual master will achieve the highest perfection of life, Shreya Uttamam. He will enjoy eternal bliss and knowledge in the personal abode of the Lord. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauradvashe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Seeking blessings from all the assembled Vaishnavas to be able to discuss on this wonderful verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So here we find Maharaj Nimi asking the Navyogendras questions, and so he basically asked them how a person who is totally bound and entangled in this material world can be liberated from this material existence. And so Prabuddha, one of the Navyogendras, is describing the nature of the material world, the nature of material happiness, and then how to get liberated from this material world. So he has described how even if one goes to the heavenly planets, there is no happiness because one will have to come down to the material world from the heavens. So, Kshine Punye Martilokam Vishanti. So therefore, in the 21st verse of the same chapter, he is giving the solution. And the solution is, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Shreyottamam Shabde Parecha Nishnatam Brahmani Upashamashrayam. Therefore, because there is no happiness anywhere in the material world, and if one wants to get real happiness, which is what the soul has been hankering for since time immemorial, therefore, one has to seek shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and inquire submissively about Shreya Uttamam, about the ultimate benefit of life. And what are the qualifications of such a spiritual master? Shabde Parecha Nishnatam. Nishnatam, here word-to-word meaning is perfectly knowledgeable. In lectures on the verse, Srila Prabhupada says, Nishnatam means to take bath. To literally bathe oneself in Shabda Brahma. That means to be well versed in the Vedic knowledge. And Brahmani Upashama Ashrayam. So Brahmani, that is the Supreme Brahman, Upashama. Upa means to come close by taking shelter, Ashrayam. And thus, having taken shelter of the Supreme Brahman, he is detached from all sorts of material activities. So those are the qualifications of a bona fide spiritual master to whom one should surrender. And in the further verses, he is further describing how the disciple should accept such a spiritual master as one's life and soul. Tatra Bhagavatam Dharman Guru Atma Deivataha. So he must accept the spiritual master as Atma, his very life and soul, and also Deivata, that means his worshipable deity. And how he should serve? Amayaya that means without any deceit, without any cheating propensity, and anuvritya, by faithful service. So that is how he should serve, in such a way that the spiritual master is pleased, and then when the spiritual master is pleased, then tushet atma, then the Supreme Lord is pleased. Tushet atma, atma here refers to the Paramatma, the Supreme Lord. And when the Supreme Lord is pleased, what is the result of that? Atmadha Hari, he bestows his own self. The Supreme Lord bestows his own self upon such a disciple. That means he gives the realization of his own self to such a disciple. And in the next verse, he talks about how the sincere disciple should learn to dissociate the mind from everything material and positively cultivate association with the spiritual master and other saintly devotees. So in this verse, he is describing how one should associate with different levels of devotees, different types of devotees, and deal appropriately with all living beings, seeing them as parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. And the next verse is describing how one should cultivate various qualities like shaucham, tapas, titiksha, maunam, swadhyayam, arjavam, brahmacharyam, ahimsam. So all these various qualities the disciple should learn to cultivate in order to appropriately serve the spiritual master. So here we find these verses are describing how one can, and today's verse, finally, he is coming to the level of bhava and prema, and the devotee is exhibiting all these symptoms of prema. Rudanti, achyuta chintaya, thinking of the Supreme Lord. So all these symptoms are the rudanti, hasanti, nandanti, vadanti, nrityanti, gayanti, anushilayanti. So all these are the various symptoms of bhava and prema, which is the ultimate fruit of the practice of devotional service. And I'm sure we all are aspiring for that fruit. When? Only time is separating. But definitely that is our aspiration. And the Shastras are very clearly giving us the process by which we can actually come to that platform. It is not simply an imagination. It is a science, and the science has been elaborately and perfectly described by the Acharyas, by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, has given us the 9 stages of the practice of devotional service, beginning from Adav Shraddha, Sadhu Sang, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava and Prema. So this is a science of systematic progress. So science means one who practices definitely will see the result. As Srila Prabhupada explains, just like in scientific experiments in laboratories, so if we want the desired results of the scientific experiment, then one has to properly follow the procedure, properly follow all the criteria, standards, maintain proper pressure, temperature, whatever things are required to be maintained, everything has to be maintained, then one will get the desired results. And if one makes a mistake in the process, and there is some flaw somewhere, then one does not get the result, correct? That is science. And many students of science, I think so many of us have experience, when we don't get the result, then we manipulate to get the result. But unfortunately, on the path of bhakti, there is no such manipulation. It is an infallible science which is being controlled by the internal potency, the Chit Shakti of the Lord. And so therefore, it's a perfect science. And in order to achieve the result, then the whole process has to be also performed exactly according to the Shastras, according to the instructions of the spiritual master. Then the result is definitely guaranteed. So, on the platform of bhava and prema, such are the symptoms that are manifested. And of course, one who is exhibiting such symptoms will attract the attention of so many people. And so therefore, some of the sahajiyas, they try to imitate such symptoms to get cheap adoration from the public. So they may do all sorts of tricks, put some chili powder or some chilies in the nose, eyes, something, do something, to get some tears and make a big show. So once in Vrindavan, you may have heard this pastime. So once in Vrindavan, when Srila Prabhupada was there, after the inauguration of the Krishna Balaram temple, one day in the temple courtyard, one man was creating a big scene by crying and laughing. All these symptoms he was manifesting, rolling on the ground, he was making a big hue and cry. And all the other pilgrims and all the other people, they were amazed, shocked, stunned, seeing the scene. And the devotees who did not have any such experience before, they did not know what to do. And so they went up to Srila Prabhupada, who happened to be there. They went up to him and asked him, so there is such a person here creating such a scene, so what should be done? So Srila Prabhupada said, you kick him. You kick him very hard. If he is actually on the platform of bhava and prema, he will humbly tolerate everything. If he is not on the platform and is simply making a show, he'll run for his life. And sure enough, as soon as the devotees, they hit him, then he fled for his life because he was simply making a show. So therefore, in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami also talks about 9 reliable symptoms of bhava bhakti which cannot be imitated, and even if one tries to imitate, one cannot imitate for too long. Right? So he's describing the 9 symptoms like avyartha kalatvam, manashunyata, kshanti, and pritistad vasati sthale, namagane sadaruchi, asha bandha. So like that 9 symptoms he's describing, which cannot be imitated. And so only one who actually has the bhava and prema, who actually has love, will be able to manifest those symptoms on a steady basis over prolonged periods of time. At the same time, what is important for us to understand is, that is our goal definitely, but how do we come? The process has been described. We find in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come in the role of a devotee. Jai Shri Shri Gaunitai ki, Jai Shri SriSriRadhaRasbihariTemple ki, Jai Shri Sitaram Lakshmana. So he's come in the role of a devotee, and he's showing us how to practice devotional service so that we can come to this platform. And therefore, we find that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also accepted a spiritual master, Ishwarapuri. And when he accepted a spiritual master, how was his attitude and behavior towards his spiritual master? Later on we find he exhibited all the symptoms of ecstasy. At Jagannath Puri, along with his intimate associates like Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramanand Rai. Yesterday we were hearing from His Grace Gokuleshwar Prabhu about Ramanand Rai. And so along with his intimate associates, he exhibited all these various symptoms of ecstasy. In front of Lord Jagannath's Rath cart, he exhibited, as it is said, alaukika, amazing symptoms of ecstasy, dancing, jumping high, crashing to the ground, all the devotees would think his bones would break, and all the hairs standing on end, and blood coming out, oozing out of his body, and all such ecstatic symptoms he was exhibiting. Yet, when he met his spiritual master, as he himself is describing to Prakashananda Saraswati, and Prakashananda Saraswati is asking Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why are you simply chanting and dancing sentimentally along with these fanatics? You are such an esteemed member of our Shankara Sampradaya. You should be studying Vedanta and meditating. Why are you dancing along with these fanatics? So in reply to that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, which Srila Prabhupada very often quoted, Prabhu kahe shuna Shripad ihara karana Guru more murkha deki karila shasana. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Prakashananda Saraswati that my spiritual master said, my dear sir, kindly hear the reason. My spiritual master considered me a fool and therefore he chastised me. And in the next verse he says, Murkha tumi tomara nahika vedanta adhikara Krishna mantra japa sada ei mantra sara. So he says, my spiritual master called me Murkha, fool. He's Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can he be fool? But that is how he presented himself. And he told them, Tomara nahika adhikar Vedanta. So you don't have adhikar to study the Vedanta. Simply Krishna mantra japa. Simply chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Because this is a mantra sara. This is the sara, this is the essence of all the shastras, of all the Vedic knowledge. I would just like to read a part of Srila Prabhupada's purport to this verse, which is very instructive in this connection. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj comments in this connection. One can become perfectly successful in the mission of his life if he acts exactly according to the words he hears from the mouth of his spiritual master. Okay, he's quoting from his Guru Maharaj. If he acts exactly according, not the word, exactly. In this connection, Srila Prabhupada has written in the purport to Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 24, text 12. The last sentence of the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, to honor the spiritual master means. So what does it mean to honor the spiritual master? Offering obeisances, yes, that is also correct. To chant and dance in front of him, yes, that is also correct. To be very eager to take his remnants, yes, that is also correct. But what does it actually mean to honor the spiritual master? Srila Prabhupada says, it means to follow his instructions word for word. Follow instructions word for word. Not accepting some, rejecting others. Just like the other day we were hearing from Srila Prabhupada, Ardha Kukut Nyai. Not like that. Word for word. Same thing here also. If he acts exactly according to the words he hears from the mouth of his spiritual master. This acceptance of the words of the spiritual master is called Shrauta Vakya, which indicates that the disciple must carry out the spiritual master's instructions without deviation. Srila Vishwanath Thakur remarks in this connection that a disciple must accept the words of his spiritual master as his life and soul. And we know that is the famous purport to which verse? Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kuru nandana. In the commentary to that verse, Srila Vishwanath Thakur has said that it does not matter whether sansara exists, whether sansara is not there, that means whether I am liberated, not liberated, all this does not matter. The only thing that I am really interested in life and soul of the disciple is simply to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. Same thing is saying here. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here confirms this by saying that since his spiritual master ordered him only to chant the holy name of Krishna, he always chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra according to this direction. Krishna Mantra Japa Sada E Mantra Sar. Okay? Further on, Prabhupada writes that how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Supreme Personality of God, is the spiritual master of the entire universe. He nevertheless took the position of a disciple in order to teach by example how a devotee should strictly follow the orders of a spiritual master in executing the duty of always chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And then further down, Prabhupada is saying, only fools give up the service of the spiritual master and think themselves advanced in spiritual knowledge. In order to check such fools, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself presented the perfect example of how to be a disciple. A spiritual master knows very well how to engage each disciple in a particular duty. But if a disciple, thinking himself more advanced than a spiritual master, gives up his orders and acts independently, he checks his own spiritual progress. Every disciple must consider himself completely unaware of the signs of Krishna and must always be ready to carry out the orders of the spiritual master to become competent in Krishna consciousness. A disciple should always remain a fool before his spiritual master. Always. Till when? The further verses describe. Further on, Mahaprabhu says, so according to the instruction of spiritual master, I started chanting, and then when he started chanting, what happened? This exactly happened. What we are reading in today's verse, that exactly happened. So all these symptoms of ecstasy were beginning to manifest. Srila Vishwanath Thakur describes in his Madhurya Kadamani that in actuality, when a devotee comes to the level of bhava and prema, then prema becomes the puppeteer. You know, puppeteer? Puppet. The puppet, does the puppet have any independence? No, the puppet has no independence. The puppet moves exactly according to the directions of the puppeteer. So similarly, prema becomes the puppeteer and the devotee becomes a puppet in the hands of prema. And so therefore, these symptoms develop spontaneously, and even though the devotee may not want them, still they come by force. That is the result of the influence of Shuddha Sattva. Shuddha Sattva is comprised of the Chit potency and the Ladhani potency. So when the Shuddha Sattva enters into one's consciousness, by the influence of the Chit potency and the Ladhani potency, all these symptoms manifest. There are spiritual emotions which automatically manifest. And therefore, in the pastime of Daksha Prajapati and Lord Shiva, I'm sure most of us know the pastime, how when Daksha Prajapati entered into the assembly, everyone stood up to respect him except two personalities. Who were they? Brahma and Shiva. Brahma understood his father. But Shiva, son-in-law, how dare he not stand up? So then later on, when Lord Shiva was explaining to Sati why he did not stand up, so there he speaks the well-known verse, Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. That is Vasudev state, the Shuddha Sattva state. So Lord Shiva says, what can I do? That Shuddha Sattva state entered into my existence without my asking for it. I didn't ask for it. It automatically came. And so because it automatically came, then I was meditating on the Supreme Lord. I was totally in Samadhi. It was not within my control. It was not within my control. I was helpless, influenced by Shuddha Sattva. What could I do? It's not my fault. So that is Shuddha Sattva. So when the Shuddha Sattva takes over, the spiritual potency of the Lord becomes the puppeteer and makes the devotee dance. So that is what happened to Mahaprabhu. And so therefore, Mahaprabhu says, E agya paya nama lai anukshana nama laite laite mora bhranta hoila mana. So he says, according to the agya of the spiritual master, I began to chant. And as I began to chant, nama laite laite, over a period of time, laite laite, then what happened? Mora bhranta hoila man. I became bewildered. This is another type of bewilderment. This is not our bewilderment by the influence of Maya. This is spiritual bewilderment. And then what happened? Dhairya dharita nari hoilama unmata hasi khandi nachi gai yaiche madamatta. Same thing. Right? Hasi kandi nachi gai. So while chanting the holy name of the Lord in pure ecstasy, I lose myself and thus I laugh, cry, dance and sing just like a madman. And so, he says, Tabi dhairya dhari mane karilu vichar Krishna name jnana achanna hoila amar. So he thought, what is happening? My jnana has been covered. The holy name is supposed to uncover ignorance, but this holy name seems to be covering. Collecting my patience, therefore, I began to consider that chanting the holy name of Krishna had covered all my spiritual knowledge. And so, Pagala hoilami dhairya nahi mane eta chinti nivedilo guru racharane. I saw that I had become mad by chanting the holy name, and I immediately submitted this at the lotus feet of my spiritual master. And here Srila Prabhupada writes a very important point. What he says? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an ideal teacher shows us how a disciple should deal with his spiritual master. Whenever there is doubt regarding any point, he should refer the matter to his spiritual master for clarification. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that while chanting and dancing, he had developed the kind of mad ecstasy that is possible only for a liberated soul. Yet, that's the important point, yet, even in his liberated position, he referred everything to his spiritual master whenever there were doubts. Thus, in any condition, even when liberated, we should never think ourselves independent of the spiritual master, but must refer to him as soon as there is some doubt regarding our progressive spiritual life. So even on the liberated condition, one can never think that now I don't require guidance. Now I am smart enough to figure out everything on my own. No, because even on the liberated condition, as long as there is a material body, there is still some possibility of being influenced by the modes. Just like Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj was also on the Bhava platform, but still there was a problem when he became attached to the deer. So therefore, there's another famous purport in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 12th chapter, text 14. In this purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, sure short way of success and sure short way of fall down. Both statements he's writing. So what is sure short way of success? Prabhupada is writing, if one always follows the instructions of the spiritual master, there is no question of fall down. If one always follows, no question. Then he says, but if the foolish disciple thinks that now he has become more intelligent, a little bit paraphrasing, that he has become more intelligent than the spiritual master and he becomes ambitious to occupy his post. Disciple wants to occupy the post of the spiritual master, sit in his position. That means what? That means no need of guru. He has pushed the guru aside. He becomes the guru himself. Or more precisely, he makes his mind his guru. Then what Prabhupada says, if somebody does that, who does that? Only foolish disciple does. And when the foolish disciple does that, the result is he immediately falls down. And there Srila Prabhupada is writing the reason why Bharat Maharaj fell down. He says, Bharat Maharaj, even though very exalted, he fell down because he did not consult a spiritual master. Even on Bhava platform, liberated stage, Prabhupada is writing, he didn't consult a spiritual master. Dhruva Maharaj was on liberated platform, yet he required Swayambhu Manu to come to instruct him when he became overly angry with the yakshas. That is the nature of the material world. Always a risky place. Therefore, it is always safe, as Prabhupada is writing here, to always take instruction, to always take guidance. Even though one may think oneself to be very exalted. Of course, one who is actually exalted is always humble. He never thinks himself exalted. That is the symptom of one on the Bhava platform, Mana Shunyata. He does not have pride. And so therefore, we find that this principle of taking guidance is always required. Even though Maharaj Parikshit, again, he saw the Supreme Lord right in the womb of his mother, Mahabhagavat, but still, he had already made his decision to fast for 7 days when he got the news of his imminent death. But still, when all the great sages assembled over there, because everyone understood now, Bhagavad Katha is going to take place for 7 days. So Prabhupada says that is how this Bhagavad Sapta business began. But the reason why Shukdev Goswami spoke for 7 days was because there were only 7 days. Now, hopefully and fortunately, we have more than 7 days. No guarantee, of course. But the principle for us is Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya, not Sapta. Any case, so everyone, all the great sages, Vashishta, Vishwamitra, Vyasdev, Narada, all these great sages, immediately they understood, now this Bhagavad Katha is going to take place. Shukdev Goswami is going to speak. They all immediately, no message required. No WhatsApp message, this message, that message, please come, no invitation. Automatically they came. With great eagerness they came. They were so eager to hear the Bhagavatam. Parikshit Maharaj had already made up his decision to fast for the next 7 days and do pure devotional service. But he took advantage of the association and he presented his decision before them for a confirmation. Maharaj Parikshit didn't think, oh, I am Mahabhagavat, I don't require to consult anyone. I only give consultation. He didn't think like that. He consulted. He presented his situation. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport to Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 19th chapter, 12th verse purport. Srila Prabhupada writes this beautiful statement, any decision, however important it may be, must always be confirmed with some authority. That makes the matter perfect. Any decision, however important, maybe not so important, less important, more important, whatever one thinks, but if there is a doubt, then it is always good to confirm it. That's the humility of a Vaishnav. He confirms his decisions. That makes the matter perfect, no loss. And so here we find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Supreme Lord on the liberated platform. He definitely knows everything, but just to show an example to all of us, he is also confirming what are these symptoms. Kiba mantra dila gosai, kiba tarabal, japite mantra karila pagal. My dear Lord, what kind of mantra have you given me? I become mad simply by chanting this Maha Mantra. Okay? And hearing this, Ishwar Puri was very happy and pleased. He smiled. That is described in the further verse. And so Prabhupada writes, when a disciple very perfectly makes progress in spiritual life, this gladdens the spiritual master, who then also smiles in ecstasy, thinking how successful my disciple has become. He feels so glad that he smiles as he enjoys the progress of the disciple, just as a smiling parent enjoys the activities of a child who's trying to stand up or crawl perfectly. So, the symptom of success, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning over here. What is real success on the spiritual path? The success is not judged by anything material, in terms of any material achievements, even in spiritual life. The real symptom of progress is how much one has developed attachment for the Supreme Lord. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radokshaje. Dharma svanushtata pumsam vishvaksena kadasuya na utpadyet yatiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. How much rati, how much attachment one has developed for the Supreme Lord. That is the symptom of success. That is the symptom of progress, by which the spiritual master becomes very pleased. All other achievements in terms of maybe constructing temples or book distribution or number of devotees, all those are goods, provided one has progressed in a way that one's attachment to Krishna, which results in detachment from everything material, has taken place. That is the actual symptom. So therefore, there's that well-known pastime where devotees were asking Srila Prabhupada, which service will please you the most? And so, all types of devotees doing all types of services were present in the audience. The book distributors were thinking, definitely Srila Prabhupada will say book distribution. Prabhupada said it so many times. And the pujaris were thinking, definitely Srila Prabhupada will say pujari service, because Srila Prabhupada said the pujari is very close to the Supreme Lord. So everyone was thinking in his own terms, his own service. But Srila Prabhupada surprised all of them by saying, if you love Krishna, that will please me the most, because that is the real success. And so therefore, by surrendering to the bona fide spiritual master and following his instructions with humility, that is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown. He has begun with Guru Mora Murkha Deki. He has begun on that platform of absolute humility, thinking himself a fool and following the instructions word for word sincerely. That resulted in the manifestation of bhava and prema. And that is the process which the scriptures again and again say. In the conversation between Prithu Maharaj and Sanat Kumar, Prithu Maharaj also asked similar question to Sanat Kumar. How can unfortunate people like us be delivered from this ocean of material existence? And there also, Sanat Kumar describes, right in the beginning, he says that all the scriptures have given us this conclusion, that the perfection of human life is to develop attachment to the Supreme Lord and detachment from everything material. And there Sanat Kumar gives some 17 steps as to how one can develop this attachment to the Supreme Lord. And immediately the verse following that, one of the first steps that he describes is Yogeshwara Upasanaya. Now, Yogeshwara Upasana, Yogeshwar is the Supreme Lord. But in the purport to the verse, Srila Prabhupada describes that Yogeshwar is the representative of Yogeshwar, that is the spiritual master. And so therefore, by following the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master word for word, that is how one makes progress. To develop that attachment to the Supreme Lord and detachment from everything material. And how and why that takes place, that is also described, that also we can see in the pastimes of Lord Krishna himself. When Lord Krishna, the Supreme Lord, he came to show his pastimes in this material world, he also accepted a spiritual master, Sandipani Muni. And we know the well-known pastime, when Sudama came to meet Krishna, then they're discussing their childhood pastimes. And they're discussing how in the Gurukul, they went to the forest to get wood for the spiritual master. There was heavy storm, they got caught. And then the next morning, Sandipani Muni came searching for his disciples. And Sandipani Muni was greatly pleased seeing his disciples so sincere in carrying out his instructions. And there, what Sandipani Muni says is something which is very important. So there, Sandipani Muni, he says, Aho he putraka yuyam asmad artheti dukkitaha atma vai praninam preshtas tam anadritya matparaha. So he says, oh my children, you have suffered so much for my sake. The body is most dear to every living creature, but you are so dedicated to me that you completely disregarded your own comfort. You didn't think of your own comfort. You only thought about my pleasure, following my instructions. Then he says, Etadeva hi satshishya kartavyam guru nishkritam yadvai vishuddha bhavena sarvartha ma arpanam gurau. This indeed is the duty of all true disciples, to repay the debt to their spiritual master by offering him with pure hearts their wealth and even their very lives. And then in the next verse he says, Tushtoham bodvija shreshta satya santu manorataha chandamsi ayata yamani bhavantu iha paratracha. You boys are first-class brahmanas and I am satisfied with you. Tushtoham. And he is giving blessing. Lord does not require blessing, but in the role of a spiritual master is giving blessing. What is the blessing? May all your desires be fulfilled and may the Vedic mantras you have learned never lose their meaning for you in this world or the next. He does not say, you may remember all the mantras. He says, the mantras may not lose the meaning. That means the understanding of the mantras will always remain. That is the realization of the mantras and the realization of the Vedic knowledge. That is what one achieves by the blessings of the spiritual master. And when one achieves the blessings of the spiritual master, Gyan turns into Vigyan. Theoretical knowledge turns into realized knowledge. Every morning we pray, Divya Gyan Hridhe Prakashito. It is revealed by the grace of the spiritual master, and when it becomes realized knowledge, one remains convinced, one remains fixed in the process of Krishna consciousness, in following the instructions of the spiritual master. One does not become deviated. Then one does not think, will this process work? Should I go somewhere else? Should I go to this Baba, that Bapu, here, there? Should I go somewhere else? No. One remains fixed because one has full realization of the process. That is what one gets by the blessings of the spiritual master. And that is why following the instructions of the spiritual master is so important for us. And so therefore, for us, Srila Prabhupada as the founder Acharya and preeminent Shiksha Guru for all devotees within ISKCON, very important for us to understand the instructions that Srila Prabhupada has given us by reading his books and try to sincerely follow those instructions. And then we have Srila Prabhupada's representatives in the form of Diksha Gurus, Shiksha Gurus and temple authorities. So we definitely should try to please them and serve them in order to attract their blessings, because it's only by blessings and grace that one gets realized knowledge. Then one becomes fixed in one's practice of devotional service. Then one can achieve the success of Krishna Prem, and then one can hope to exhibit such symptoms as have been described in today's verse. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So, senior devotees would like to share any comments. Any questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you mentioned that Bharat Maharaj fell down because he didn't consulted with his spiritual master. But
Prabhupada says that.
But he was alone in the forest, so how he will consult? But he was alone in forest, so how he will consult?
And there were no phones.
Yeah.
And there was no other means to contact. But yet Prabhupada is writing. So that means, whatever the endeavor that is required, that has to be done. That means if he has to walk 1,000 miles to find the spiritual master and consult, he should do it. But in any case, now we don't have such challenges, right? We surely don't have such challenges. And even if one says, oh, spiritual master is now also is 1,000 miles away. But now there are enough ways of quick communication. And even if it's not possible, but still, Srila Prabhupada has mercifully created society. So there are the representative spiritual master, other senior Vaishnavas to consult. We can take advantage of their association, find guidance. But the principle remains. The principle remains. Because, again, Srila Prabhupada writes in the pastime of Kala Krishna Das, the reference is Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 10 chapter, text 65. So in that purpose, Srila Prabhupada writes, even if someone is with the Supreme Personality of Godhead like Kala Krishna Das, directly with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but still he fell down. Why? Because it only requires, as Prabhupada says, a slight misuse of independence. And that slight misuse of independence can happen at any time, because even Krishna does not interfere with the free will of the jiva. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada is writing, we read that, even on the liberated platform, therefore one should consult. Because as long as material body is there, there is always a risk of being influenced by the modes. Therefore it is required. Okay? Anything else?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you for
hijacking the mic. Okay, go ahead.
Lines hai. So, 1, 2, 3. So, Prabhuji, you said that the success in spiritual life means attachment to Krishna and detachment to this material world. So, can you explain this more? Like, what are the symptoms? How can I say that this devotee is attached to Krishna and then he is detached? Oh, externally leaving job and joining is okay, but then what more?
Bhakti, Parishang, Bhav, Virakti, that is the symptom. That's what is being described in the same 11th canto, 11-42. It comes in the same conversation between Maharaj Nimi and the Navyogendras. So they're describing that just like, so how does one know? Now, we're all going to honor prasadam very soon. So how does one know whether one's belly is full? Tushti, pushti, kshudapaya. Tushti means satisfaction, pushti means nourishment, kshudapaya means cessation of hunger. So whenever Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse, he says, so when one is eating, does someone need to tell you, Prabhu, I think so, you've eaten enough, please stop. Somebody needs to comment. One understands for oneself, correct? So similarly, Srila Prabhupada says, no need for someone else to give certificate. One can understand for oneself. So what are the symptoms? Bhakti. The tushti is analogous to bhakti. How much one has the service attitude. Bhakti means what? The service attitude of wanting to please Guru and Krishna and not please oneself. How much one has that service attitude. How much that service attitude is developing. I want to simply please Guru and Krishna. Whatever I'm doing, I'm not interested in pleasing my own senses. That is bhakti. Para Isha Anubhava, direct experience with the Supreme Lord. How much one is feeling some relationship with the Supreme Lord. How much one's faith in the Supreme Lord is increasing. How much reciprocation with the Lord is increasing. Which gives a sense of satisfaction. And virakti, how much one's material desires, attachment to gross and subtle material things, how much that is reducing. These are symptoms by which one can judge for oneself. No need to judge others. Most important is to judge oneself. These are some of the symptoms. And another verse which Srila Prabhupada did quote quite often. Tada rajastamo bhava kamalo bhadashe chetayete ranavidham siddham satve prasidati. How much the symptoms of rajas and tamas are reducing in the form of kama, lobha. How much is reducing? These are symptoms. How much one's attachment to Krishna Katha, how much one's attachment to serving the Vaishnavas, serving Guru, how much that attachment is increasing. How much one's attachment to serving one's own senses is reducing. All these are the symptoms. Okay? Okay.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, you mentioned 2 points. One, you said that one has to exactly follow the orders of the spiritual master. And also you mentioned one point that a slight independence will, slight independence may lead us to fall down. So in the present condition, we have one Daksha Guru and there are many Siksha Gurus, you can say. So we have different authorities. So generally our tendency is that we take instruction from everyone and then kind of we follow what we find suitable. That's one thing. Other class of devotees are like, they want to follow Srila Prabhupada directly. And they take the instruction through their books and they follow and they think that they are following Srila Prabhupada. So this many deviations happens due to these tendencies. So how to not be allured by these tendencies and how to protect oneself and exactly and without misusing the independence, follow the instructions of the authority.
Okay, good question. Srila Prabhupada gives a very precise answer in that same purport, CC Madhya 1065. So Srila Prabhupada says, therefore, one has to be very conscientious. Conscientious means very alert, very alert. Because at any moment, the mind can distract us and there's a possibility of misusing the free will. So one needs to be very alert, whether whatever I am doing is in line with Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. As far as our society is concerned, we have Srila Prabhupada as the founder Acharya and preeminent Shiksha Guru. And Srila Prabhupada in his books, lectures, letters, he has given general instructions for all devotees within ISKCON. Essentially, the chanting of 16 rounds of the holy name on beads and following the 4 regulative principles and other attending the morning program and things like that. These are common instructions for all devotees within ISKCON, which all devotees need to follow. There's no doubt about that, correct? And of course, even for specific services, Srila Prabhupada has given instructions. You can refer to the Shikshamrit to get more instructions on different services. So we definitely have to take into consideration these various instructions that Srila Prabhupada has given us. At the same time, when it comes to practical application of those instructions, especially when it comes to various services, then we definitely need to consult our immediate authorities as to how we need to apply those instructions and perform practical services within the institution. Okay? So, I cannot assume that I'm sure the best service Srila Prabhupada likes is book distribution. So, irrespective of what my temple authorities say, I will do book distribution. I can't do that. Because then I am disregarding another instruction of Srila Prabhupada. Okay, I may be following one instruction of book distribution, but I am disregarding another instruction of Srila Prabhupada, and that is to follow the management structure of ISKCON. Correct? The management structure of ISKCON also has been given by Srila Prabhupada. And so if I don't follow that, then I am disobeying that instruction. And there are many letters of Srila Prabhupada where Srila Prabhupada has emphasized that how we must follow this management structure, how we must follow the temple president. Prabhupada has emphasized it many times. And not getting into details, but when all the temple presidents went in 1976 went to complain to Srila Prabhupada about Tamal Krishna Maharaj stealing brahmacharis from the temple, so Srila Prabhupada took it very seriously. Because Srila Prabhupada's system was, yes, we must follow the temple authorities, cooperate with them, then only the institution can progress. If we don't cooperate with the management structure, the institution cannot make progress, cannot function smoothly. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada wanted us to follow the management structure, and so if we want to please Srila Prabhupada, we need to follow this instruction also. And therefore, I cannot whimsically think that most probably this service will please Srila Prabhupada. No. Then I have to follow my immediate authorities. According to need of situation, they give instructions, and so we need to follow that. And so there are general instructions for all devotees within ISKCON, but when it comes to practical services and how to execute those services, then we definitely need to follow our immediate authorities. Does it help? Big subject matter, but I gave you a brief answer. Okay, one last question. You had a question? No? No, answer. Any other question? Good. Okay, one last one. Gopanand.
Hari Bol. Prabhuji, as mentioned in the purport, it was mentioned that we have any time not independent of a spiritual master in even a liberated stage. So does it go the same in the spiritual world? Is it applicable? And do we have an opportunity to have the same spiritual master what we have taken Diksha from?
Okay. So what's happening in the spiritual world? In the spiritual world also the same principle is followed. In the spiritual world also, the same principle of Gopi Bhartur, Padakamalayur, Das, 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 Anudas. The principle exists even in the spiritual worlds. Srila Prabhupada mentions in his lectures, even in the spiritual world, the Gopis and other Rajvasis, they don't want to directly serve Radha Krishna. So they also have their hierarchy and they also follow the system. It is not that they directly want to serve Radha Krishna. So the principle exists there also. Principle exists. And what was the other question?
Same spiritual master what we have taken.
Oh, okay. So Srila Prabhupada says, Guru Tattva is one. And so therefore, it may, as far as our Diksha Guru is concerned, the Diksha Guru may return back to the spiritual world and he may be doing service for Radha and Krishna and in the spiritual world, enjoying pastimes. So, if he wants or if he is ordered, he can come again, or he may send somebody else for the deliverance of the other disciples or devotees. So, we cannot expect that the same personality may be there, but the principle remains. The principle of Guru Tattva remains. And so, ultimately Guru is Krishna, correct? So ultimately, so therefore, Krishna is very interested in delivering the conditioned souls. And so Krishna makes some arrangement. He will make some arrangement for the deliverance of the conditioned souls. It may be the same person, another person, whatever. Okay? Thank you all very much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.